I am delighted to welcome Chris Austin back to the flagship studios at the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference this year. Chris is the CEO of Vesalius Therapeutics, a company that has a platform for tackling common diseases based on a new insight into gene circuits. So, Chris, tell us a little bit more about the platform. What was the model that served as the basis for what you are building at Vesalius?
Well, Vesalius has developed the first precision platform for common diseases. What that means is that we're wholesale redefining what common diseases are to link what patients actually have clinically and phenotypically with what's causing it, the mechanism causing it, and then identify what is the optimal Achilles heel in that mechanism to reverse the pathology that's leading to the phenotype in those patients, and then having much more sophisticated human-based, not animal-based, but human-based testing systems that allow us to model everything we're doing in human systems, that is the target organism, and get to patients much more quickly and more effectively. And that's a huge, huge deal because the diseases we're talking about are the ones that cause 90% of suffering and death. And as a physician, I can tell you that the majority of those diseases have not progressed much at all, if at all, since I was in training decades ago, despite all of the science that's come before. And so what's exciting for me about Vesalius is it's really a dream come true for those of us who've been working on this problem for many years. And it's possible because of advancing and integration, critically, integration of a number of technologies that make this possible.
So, Chris, you were on this stage last year with us. Tell us about the progression of the platform and the company in the intervening 12 years. Catch us up.
Yeah, 12 months.
Thank
not
you.
12 years.
I'm dating myself.
But yes, when we were together last year, we'd made fantastic advances in doing what we wanted to do, that is to go from the aspiration of doing what I just described. Could we identify within these traditional historical diagnostic categories distinct groups of people clinically or phenotypically, and then link them to a mechanism that's abnormal in that population via human genetics, the gene circuits, as you mentioned, that are abnormal in these people, and the targets, those Achilles heels that would reverse the pathology. And we were really excited about that. And we'd done it in a number of diseases, so we could show that we could do this over and over and over again, repeatedly, really importantly. But what we've done in the last year is arguably even more important from a patient perspective, which is that we've developed multiple potential first-in-class, best-in-class therapies for major unmet medical needs in neurodegenerative disorders, which, Lydia, as you may know, happens to be my training as a neurologist. But even more important for me, the diseases that we're working on, some of them have not had a novel mechanism therapy ever, or in the last 50, 60 years. And we're now on the cusp of that. And the platform created that. And it created it in a remarkably short period of time. I mean, we're talking standing start to now in 3 years, which is astounding.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the platform is now starting to bear fruit. You have a couple of really exciting assets you're starting to play with. Tell us a little bit about how you think about advancing some of those, and also how you think about partnerships as enabling the continuation of the development of new assets.
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot. Partnerships, I think, for us and for all flagship companies, I think, is really are really critical to our advancement. We think really carefully about the fact that we're a small company. I mean, we have big ambitions, but the fact is we're a small company. And so we need to think very critically, and do think very critically, about what are we best in the world at? What can we do that nobody else can do? And if there are, and draw a ring fence around that. And if there are things that others can do better than we can, then we want to partner with those people and maintain our core expertise, our secret sauce. And so what we're now doing is to talk to a number of pharmaceutical companies, and I must say it's been tremendously gratifying, the reception we've gotten from this vision and these data from multiple different companies that we're talking to. And we're talking to them both about the platform, applying the platform diseases of interest to them. We're also talking to them about the programs that we talked about, because our lead programs are approaching development candidate stage, will be in the clinic next year. So these are the stages where partners really start to get interested. And what we're interested in from partners is the more the clinical expertise. How to take the biomarkers that we have and implement them in a clinical trial or in the clinic, how to think about clinical trial designs, because the way we identify patient populations is a little different. And so how do we work with the expertise that they have to instantiate this as rapidly as possible, accelerate not only IND enabling the IND timeframes, but the clinical timeframes. The other thing that we've been talking to a number of the companies about, is this whole idea of in a more robust, scaled way, using human-based testing systems to more accurately model complex diseases, common diseases, and develop drugs with a higher probability of success in the clinic. There's a number of companies that are interested in that, and we've developed a scaled technology which a number of companies are interested in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit yesterday about building companies, building platform companies, and the trade-off that you might have to make, or how you think about investing both in the platform and in the products as that platform starts to produce assets for you. Tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about the evolution of the platform at Vesalius and investing that there.
Yeah, so I think about this as a goose and golden egg problem, or opportunity. Of course, the purpose of the goose is to produce golden eggs. But you got to have the goose, because the goose has to keep producing more and hopefully better eggs as time goes on, and so I view the programs as being important in at least two ways. One is that they get us to where we want to be from a patient perspective. I mean, patients love platforms, but as a mom of a rare disease patient told me once, when my daughter gets sick, I can't give her a platform. I can only give her a drug. So that's really, really important. The other reason it's important is that it allows us to demonstrate what the platform can do. I mean, a novel platform is only as good as what, we have all kinds of grand ambitions about what the platform will do, but we have to prove that the platform can do what we say it does. And that is one of the purposes of the programs. The other thing the programs do, and this is really critical about how I think about platforms, is that everything we learn in developing those programs and getting those drugs to the clinic, I mean, each one is so important in their own right, but they're also important from what they teach us. One of the reasons I don't like the term platform, though I use it all the time, is that it connotes something that you build once and then you occupy. It's like a deck on the back of your house. That is not what the Vesalius platform is. It's a learning system. So the programs that we do now, I actually chose not only because of important medical need, but because I thought the results from those programs would be generalizable, would teach us something about the general case that we could feed back into the platform to expand the platform, make it more productive, make it more efficient, and be applicable to other diseases. And so what we'll be doing over the next year is two really important things to go from, as I like to say, aspiration to actualization, which is that our compounds will reach the clinic, we think, about this time next year. It's a huge milestone for us and for patients. And in the platform side, we're engaged in a really exciting expansion of what the platform can do. And very briefly, because this is something that when you get me talking about this, it might go on for a while.
Excited.
But it's based on a really, really important insight, which I think is generally unappreciated in working in common diseases. We all talk about, and I do too, how more genetically complex these disorders are. I mean, we're all familiar with rare diseases that tend to be caused by a single gene defect. These are caused by changes in multiple genes that all work together, interact with each other to cause a disease. The flip side of that complexity is that these genetic changes actually exist in healthy people. They exist in you and me. And we either don't have that disease yet, or we don't have the other changes which would lead us to get the disease. What that means is that from a practical perspective, we don't necessarily need to use disease cells, disease tissues, in order to identify our targets. And that makes the entire process radically more efficient. And so that's something that we're instantiating over the next year, identifying phenotypes within cells that are based on what are called extremes of genetic risk. And when we identify a phenotype that only exists in cells from people who have extremes of genetic risk, whether they have the disease or not at that point, we can use those data to then map the genetics, identify the circuit which is abnormal, identify the Achilles heel target, and develop a treatment for that circuit. And we know that the circuit's important because the genetics told us it was. And so it's allowing us to be radically more efficient in this whole process, building on the version 1 of the platform.
Well, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So we have platform in terms of genetic basis for drug discovery. We've got platform for the way that you're thinking about radically improving and changing the way that we think about drug discovery and development, and a very exciting path forward for Vesalius coming up. So Chris, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
I can't wait to tell you about next year.
Please do. We'll welcome you back.
Yeah,
Thank
look forward
you.
to it.